Patrick, let's turn to you. You're the executive director of the task force. Tell us what's going on and, importantly, what's coming up.
Thank you, Wade. I'll try to run through this fairly briefly to give you a sense of some of our most recent activities across the board and a brief update or a preview on the action plan. Just to remind you, we're here. This is the 10th regional meeting, if you can believe that, of the task force. We've managed to get around a good part of the state. We're going to be heading up to Fortuna in Redwood Country for our last meeting of the year after a summer meeting in Sacramento. But we're delighted to have you all here and hope you'll continue to stay with us. If you need any reminder as to why we're here, this graph shows the progression of fires over the last several decades in the Sierra Nevada, from under 1 million acres annually in the 80s to millions now. As Jason Kuiken has told us, just one fire recently, the Dixie Fire, burned more acres than the entire 1990s. So it's really a wake-up call for all of us that we've got a lot of work to do if we're going to get a handle on the fire season each year. As Wade said, key part of that is streamlining rules and regs. We're happy to say that this suspension process that the governor launched has been just a tremendous success. 300 projects already approved, all of them, I believe, in 30 days, record time. A huge shout out to the interagency team that's made this possible. We're hearing from all of you around the state. Projects that used to take a year or two to get done are now getting approved quickly. So this has just been a terrific success in the Sierra Nevada. There's over 50 projects that span a large number of objectives, a large number of partners, and even 3 here in Tuolumne County that range from defensible space to fuel reduction to community protection. Wide range of projects are taking advantage of this streamlining. We certainly hope to build a long-term structure for the streamlined process as we move ahead. As Wade and others have mentioned, money is also flowing. Governor's proposed budget includes almost $500 million for wildfire resilience through the cap and trade money, through the climate bond. $3.5 billion or $3.3 billion of that was already appropriated last year and is going to work. Another $2 billion in the governor's budget overall, including over $300 million for wildfire. So, and this is spanning a wide variety of programs. Obviously, I'm not going to walk through this, but it gives you a sense of conservancies are already out the door, getting tens of millions of dollars spent. Solicitations are open. Guidelines are under development. Please go to the Resources Agency website. There's a lot of money out there for all of you to take advantage of, and want to make sure you have the latest and best information. So be assured it's there between the CNRA website and our website. We can point you to the funding sources that work best for you. In particular, I want to highlight the landscape grant guidelines that both Sierra Nevada Conservancy and CAL FIRE are running. This is a big leap forward from project by project grants to big, larger landscape grants, block grants. All these things that you've asked us to do is actually happening, but we want to make sure the criteria and the guidelines work for you. So please get your comments in on the regional landscape grant programs. Wade mentioned the tribal stewardship policy, big announcement earlier this week, 7.5 million acres covered. Just a tremendous effort on the part of CNRA and its member agencies to increase our partnerships with tribes. Now let me just switch over to give you just a preview of the forthcoming action plan. As Wade said, many of you have been heavily involved in shaping it through the work groups and all that. And one of the most important messages that we're trying to get across is that through you, we've built an incredible foundation for this update, starting with the science. Again, as Wade said, we have a science advisory panel. We asked them about a year ago, can you give us a synthesis of the science so we can make sure we cut through all the noise regarding fuel breaks and defensible space, home hardening, what works, what doesn't work. They've completed that. It'll be part of the draft. The messages aren't going to surprise you. Home hardening and defensible space not only work, but are vital. Fuel breaks, when strategically placed, also work. Landscape level, yes, we need more thinning, we need more prescribed fire. It's all going to be in there. Streamlined processes, we've come a long way, not just with the exemption process, but with an executive order on prescribed fire, with the Cal VTP process that the Board of Forestry is leading. We're going to continue to build on that. We're investing in science and data across the board. Virtually every part of the state is now using pretty advanced decision support tools that allow them to better plan and prioritize projects. And then most important, perhaps, is building capacity. Through the Department of Conservation's Regional Fire and Forest Capacity Program and the Conservancies, we're really growing a community across the state that's willing to take this work on and has the ability to handle large amounts of money. To just give you a snapshot of this in the Sierra, this is a map of 6 collaboratives just 3 years ago that the Sierra Nevada Conservancy thought were capable of handling big blocks of money to get multiple projects done at the same time. Fast forward 3 years later, we've got 12 investment-ready landscapes on the left, 12 more that are going to be ready in a year or two. So Angie Avery and the Sierra Nevada Conservancy, just a tremendous job in getting us where we need to be. This is the key across the state to build on this so that we cover every part of the state, not just the areas that have their act together already. So here's a basic structure of the update. We've got a community strategy that you'll hear about. We've got a landscape strategy, and then we've got a framework for actually how we're going to try to help local and regional collaboratives get things done. The community strategy is not going to surprise you. The built environment leads with Zone Zero. Tony Anderson's here with the Board of Forestry. He and the board are leading the way to get that done this spring and summer. CAL FIRE is going to step up and focus on data and risk modeling so we get a better sense of how to plan and prioritize projects in the built environment. At the community level, we're really going to increase our partnerships with the counties. There's a county coordinator program that's working really well. We want to expand that, and we want to really increase the county capacity to handle a wide range of projects across the board, including metrics and modeling of how they're doing, smoke, evacuation. It's a big job, and so it's really important that we have a comprehensive approach at the community level. And then, of course, in the surrounding landscape, we're increasing our partnerships across the board. We started a new work group with utilities this last year that's thriving, is going to take off. Caltrans is stepping up. I saw Lisa Worthington here this morning. They're just doing an amazing job in coordinating their work with landscapes. And then CAL FIRE and the Forest Service are starting to really push the envelope on building a statewide network of fuel breaks. Not a scattered network, but a statewide network to both protect our communities and lay the groundwork for prescribed fire. So a lot of work being done on the community side that, of course, needs to be partnered with a landscape strategy. And here, we spent a lot of time with the scientists and the modelers to understand where we can best focus our efforts. And their answer, not surprisingly, is we really need to be focusing on high and very high hazard landscapes. Get in there with thinning, get in there with prescribed fire, reduce the density, particularly in the Sierra Nevada, so that we can make room for prescribed fire. And in addition, we've got vast areas, again, in the Sierra, that have been recently burned at high intensity that need to be replanted, or they're going to be converted to shrubland forever. So we've got a big challenge on the resilience strategy, but what we're hopeful is if we can have a laser focus on the highest priority lands for 10 years at roughly 1 million acres a year, we can then transition after that initial period to maintenance mode, where we can use beneficial fire more often, we can expand it, it's cheaper, it's more effective, has more benefits, etc. So the plan is to have a strong focus over the next 10 years on our highest priority landscapes, get our communities more resilient, get our landscapes more resilient, so then we can go to the next level with respect to maintenance and prescribed fire across the board. Of course, you can't do all of that without having wood utilization capacity to take the wood, without having our tribal members there beside us, without workforce, without aligning all of our programs, without addressing multiple mandates. So we're working very carefully across the board in our work groups to make sure that we're building the foundation to get this work done. Just a couple of examples. Many of you know John Wentworth, who's here. He's just been relentless in getting our recreation strategy approved by counties up and down the state. So thank you, John, for your great work there. Really important to try to link the recreation network with the fuel break network and other opportunities to align programs that up until now have largely been in silos. So he's been a leader in trying to bridge that gap. California Water Plan, Joel Metzger's here, the head of planning for DWR. He's come to us in the last couple of weeks and said, hey, we're updating the water plan. We need to coordinate with the task force. There's such an integration need between watershed management and forest resilience work. How do we capture that? How do we build on the work that's being done? So you're going to see us in the next couple of years partnering more and more with DWR and watershed groups across the state. And then, of course, 30 by 30. A lot of partnerships that we need to take advantage of. 30 by 30 got legislation passed last year that says, hey, you also need to focus on management of protected lands. So we're going to be partnered with them to talk about the benefits of thinning, talking about the benefits of prescribed fire for protected lands across the state. I'd be the first to say we haven't done a good enough job in explaining to the public in particular the huge conservation benefits of the work we're doing across the state's fire-adapted ecosystems. So that's a big job that's ahead of us as well. And then on the regional strategy, this is the how. This is how we're getting stuff done. Been working very closely with the Forest Service to see if we can integrate their 5-year plans with 5-year plans of the state and local agencies so that we have joint interagency planning frameworks moving forward. On permitting, as I said, we're trying to streamline permitting. On the implementation side, it's all about building partnerships across the board with utilities, with the private sector, with landowners. And then on reporting, we're developing a new set of outcome-based measures closely with the Forest Service. This next slide gives you a sense of, not surprisingly, as you'll hear, Stanislaus is the first one out the gate on outcome-based measures from the Forest Service. They're looking at wildfire risks, they're looking at avoided losses, they're looking at landscape condition. This is just a snapshot of some of the outcome-based measures that are underway that we hope better capture the great work you're doing than simply relying on acres treated. So I hope that gives you a good summary. The bottom line is what we're trying to do is build on the foundation that you've helped us build for the next generation of projects. Projects that are smarter because we've got better data, we've got better models, we've got better decision support systems. Projects that are larger because we're working across ownerships and across landscapes. Projects that go faster because we're streamlining more and more every day. And hopefully projects that are cheaper because we're aligning our funding, we're partnering with the private sector, we're building the wood processing capacity we need. And then finally, being able to capture all that with a new set of outcome-based measures that better showcase the multiple benefits of the work that's being done in the field. So I hope that gives you a sense of our mission, our goal, our vision. Certainly look forward to getting your comments as we roll out the plan over the next month or two. And as always, you can go to our website, a wealth of information on everything under the sun.
Big thanks, Patrick. That was a tour de force summary of all the work that's happening, and really, yeah. And as you pointed out, it reflects the work of hundreds, if not over 1,000 people.